Imagine you're a full-time student who has to study for an upcoming test. You sit down at your desk with the full expectation that you're going to lock in and focus. But then your phone dings. Obviously, you want and decide to pick it up, only to be distracted by other apps. Then 20 minutes later, you've realized that you've scrolled for way too long and start rushing to finish your work. Seem familiar? This action of putting off tasks, or more popularly known as procrastination, happens to the best of us at least once in our lives, whether that may be waiting to submit a project until right before the due date, or promising yourself that you would go to the gym tomorrow. Well, guess what? Tomorrow is probably never going to come. But why does this happen? Why do we constantly put off work instead of just getting it over with? Well, the answer lies deep within our thoughts and perceptions. Welcome to the Thought Waterfall Podcast. I'm your host, Sharvi, and let's jump right into our episode today. So, why do we procrastinate? Well, some people say it's because of laziness, while others state that procrastination is the result of bad time management or lack of discipline. But what if it doesn't have to do anything with these qualities? Procrastination is actually the way your brain copes with negative emotions and moods, such as anxiety, frustration, and even anger. Often described as a repeating behavior pattern, procrastination is like munching on a candy bar instead of eating a real meal. At first, you get that satisfaction and a burst of happiness from the goodness of the candy. But after the sugar rush, you start to feel sluggish, hungry, and even worse off than before. Similarly, after you put off a task, you get that same happiness and pleasure of not having to do it, only to realize later on that the tasks have piled up and now you have to do way more work than you initially planned to. But why do we specifically do this when we know that we're eventually still going to have to do the work later? Well, according to the McLean Hospital, there are 5 main reasons to why we procrastinate. The first of the 5 is boredom. Simple, right? When you feel like an activity is boring or unpleasant, you are obviously not going to want to do it. Another reason is self-doubt. If you aren't very confident in your abilities to carry out a task, you may feel intimidated to even begin one. However, one of the more harmful yet common causes of procrastination is fear. When you feel scared to get something done, such as procrastinating to get your flu shots in fear of the pain, you are more likely to never want to do it, regardless of how important it really is. Likewise, the more anxiety we feel about something we have to do, the less likely we'll actually do it. For example, if you have social anxiety, you may put off meetings or conferences in fear of being judged or embarrassed by others around you. Next, we have perfectionism, especially for the perfectionists out there. This cause usually leads to people delaying a task to wait for a better idea or more inspiration, even though some may argue that it might actually be easier to get ideas once you start. This reason also overlaps with fear and anxiety, because perfectionism may cause you to not even try a task in fear of not being perfect or not doing well on it. Finally, we have distractions. Like the example I gave in the beginning of this podcast, distractions can cause you to put off work in order to do something more fun, like scrolling on social media or hanging out with your friends. But that's enough of that. I'm sure you're wondering, well, how do I stop procrastinating? To be honest, it really depends on what works for you, whether that may be planning out your entire day ahead of time or just straight up getting rid of all the distractions around you. But if you really have no idea where to start, here are some solutions to procrastination that everyone can do. First off, you can replicate the same burst of pleasure you get when you put off a task while you do that task. Confused? To explain more specifically, you can make an activity more fun by doing things you enjoy at the same time or immediately afterwards. For example, you can listen to your favorite song while doing the dishes or eating your favorite snack after a long study session. These things give you something to look forward to, ultimately making you feel more motivated to do an activity in order to get the reward at the end. On the other hand, you can also do the opposite. Instead of being rewarded by doing tasks, you can make the consequences of procrastination more visible. This can include making commitments with your friends about doing activities that you know you can't participate in unless you finish your work. Or you can try not letting yourself do an activity that you enjoy, like playing video games, unless you've completed your task. This forces you to get your work done to avoid missing opportunities to have fun. Or my personal favorite that works every single time, the 5-minute rule. This is when you basically work on an annoying task for only 5 minutes. If you still don't want to keep going after the 5 minutes, you can do something fun. Because this is a fairly short amount of time, it tricks you into at least starting a task and will most likely make you not want to leave it unfinished. This just goes to show that there are many ways you can beat procrastination and add your own flair to whichever solution you will think will work best for you. Well, that's it for today's episode. To wrap it up, procrastination is actually something everyone does at least once in their lives. It isn't necessarily a flaw in yourself, but actually a way to cope with stress and unwanted feelings, though it could lead to undesirable outcomes. There are a wide range of causes of procrastination, from simple boredom to tense anxiety. But fortunately for us, there are numerous ways to overcome it, or you could always make up your own to have that solution that truly fits you. And that brings us to the end of our podcast today. Once again, I'm your host Sharvi, and thank you so much for tuning into the Thought Waterfall Podcast. I hope you learned something new, and remember, you are always truly capable of unlocking your potential, one thought at a time.